Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect.
Hey there movie buffs, Pedro here with a review of the latest horror release. Summer season is over and the pre-award season has just begun, with many award contenders finally getting their theatrical releases in the upcoming months. Today I'm reviewing the Cannes winner for Best Screenplay, The Substance, a body horror satire that truly stands out in a year crowded with mediocre horror entries. Viewer beware, spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, add this video to your queue and run, don't walk, to the nearest cinema to catch it. Elisabeth Sparkle, played by Demi Moore, is the star of The Substance, a celebrated former actress turned fitness guru who is grappling with her declining relevance as she celebrates her 50th birthday. After being fired by her boss, Harvey, a not-so-subtle real-life reference brought to us by Dennis Quaid, she becomes desperate to reclaim her youth and prominence. After a medical appointment where she is approached by one of the nurses, Elisabeth learns of a mysterious black market drug called The Substance that promises to restore her youth by creating a younger, more perfect version of herself. As Elisabeth indulges in the drug, she meets her vibrant and youthful alter ego Sue, played by Margaret Qualley, who is a physical manifestation of her younger self. The two characters are meant to share time equally, one week as Elisabeth and the next as Sue. However, tensions arise as both women struggle to maintain balance in their shared existence. Sue becomes increasingly addicted to the admiration she garners from those around her, whilst Elisabeth grows increasingly desperate to retain control of her own life. The tension escalates as the two versions of Elisabeth clash over their desires and place in the world. From hearing this synopsis, you could easily make the mistake of underestimating this movie. After all, innovation in the horror genre is a difficult task, and whilst general wisdom advises against reinventing the wheel, Hollywood majors and independent studios alike engage in this futile exercise of forcing innovative storytelling and execution, ultimately failing. The main reason why most titles fail is simply because they never really try, with the creative powers ending up borrowing from and being influenced by the same limited set of titles. Tapping into the horror behind aging and misogyny in the entertainment industry isn't particularly new. In fact, you could argue that it's been done to death. As such, Coralie Fargeat's sophomore effort faced an uphill battle trying to come up with something new. But the French filmmaker pulls it off, delivering a bona fide horror hit destined to be a future classic for many reasons. The first is the cast and the acting. Director Coralie Fargeat does for Demi Moore what Scorsese did for Sharon Stone in Casino, give the actress a role that fully showcases their talent. Fargeat couldn't have asked for a better creative partner. Moore can easily relate to the character she played, having been criticized and objectified throughout her whole career, most notably in the 1991 Vanity cover shoot, the provocative erotic thriller/comedy Striptease, and later in Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, where comments were directed towards her appearance as a 40-year-old woman and not her acting. Playing Elisabeth Sparkle, Moore embodies the complexity of a woman clinging to her past glory, whilst battling the insecurities of aging. Her portrayal is both vulnerable and commanding, effectively capturing the desperation of a character torn between retaining control and succumbing to the allure of youth. Moore's ability to shift between moments of raw emotion and steely determination give the character a multi-layered presence, making her performance one of the key highlights of the film. She mixes the influence of Bette Davis's performance in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and the vintage tropes from All About Eve to present a performance that is both a tribute to the past and a raw and personal take on aging in the movie industry. Very Demi Moore, very mindful. Margaret Qualley's portrayal of Sue captures the youthful vibrancy and allure that stands in stark contrast to Moore's more worn-down character. She brings a magnetic energy to the role, effortlessly shifting between moments of charm and unsettling intensity. As the embodiment of youth, Qualley's character exudes confidence, whilst also conveying a sense of danger and instability as the balance between the two versions of Elisabeth begin to crumble. The actress continues her rising trajectory in a truly terrifying role, one that builds up on the menacing and commanding persona she showed us as Rebecca Marin in Sanctuary. She achieves this with a less is more angle, one that relies on looks and body language rather than words. Dennis Quaid's Harvey, the nasty producer, is simply a marvel to watch. Quaid cranks up the camp meter up to 11 with a comic relief but not really character that's so cartoonishly over the top that it actually crosses the uncanny valley to become a real menace. All of these stellar performances find their root in a phenomenal screenplay that, in less capable hands, wouldn't translate into the outstanding product we find in The Substance. The win at Cannes should come as no surprise considering the quality of the blueprint created by the filmmaker in a festival that has always supported body horror. Fargeat justifies the suspension of logic. For example, how could Sue get a job without proper ID and a social security number, and purposely undeveloped and underwritten characters to deliver a haunting, often funny, and always shocking portrayal of show business. Then, the filmmaker takes a set of relevant yet common sources of inspiration, like the impossible architecture of all the liminal spaces lifted from The Shining, David Lynch's penchant for symbolism, and David Cronenberg's masterful execution of the body horror subgenre to create familiarity. She then tops it all off with a delightful combination of B-movie horror satires like Society, The Stuff, and even that overlooked and forgotten classic of the 80s, Looker. The cherry on top of the cake, a final sequence inspired by the prom scene from Carrie that would make Quentin Tarantino jealous. Nicholas Winding Refn tried something similar with his 2016 production of The Neon Demon, but didn't quite reach this level of excellence. For the script's secret sauce is the symbolism, most of which I'll only be able to fully dissect with a second viewing. But let's look at the iconic yellow overcoat. Yellow, traditionally associated with caution and warning, hints at Elisabeth's deteriorating situation and the danger she faces as she dabbles with the substance. The trench coat is worn as a shield of sorts, representing her desire to protect herself from the inevitable effects of aging, but its bright and attention-grabbing colors contrasts with her internal turmoil and desperation. There's also a scene in which Elisabeth is shown wearing the coat next to a warning sign featuring a cockroach. Perhaps a metaphor that aims to show that only a slimy cockroach could triumph in an ecosystem as tough as the entertainment industry. On top of it all, Fargeat delivered a screenplay where the dialogue is sharp and intentionally restrained, reflecting the emotional and psychological battle between the two versions of Elisabeth without over-explaining their motivations, allowing the audience to interpret their conflict more deeply. It also does an excellent job of maintaining suspense through minimal exposition, letting the tension rise gradually as the characters' relationships and power dynamics shift. In conclusion, Coralie Fargeat does the impossible and presents a memorable and gory entry worthy of the body horror label. The Substance reminds us of what smart horror satire used to look like and delivers the most haunting industry exposé since David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. The filmmaker beat Hollywood at its own game, and she should be recognized in the upcoming awards season along with Demi Moore. A nod for Moore wouldn't, in my eye, be an individual recognition, but one that honors some of the great performances in horror. It would be a nod for Isabel, Jeff, Not Her, and Mia. Highly recommended, the movie is a rare example of a title that has both style and the substance.